Greetings, everyone. Tim Anderson here, aka Renfell, and welcome to the latest episode of the Lotro Cooking in Real Life series, where I take recipes that are either inspired by the Lord of the Rings online MMORPG or the books themselves, maybe even the films, and I go to work in our home kitchen here with the help of my wife, Chris, and we create masterpieces, or at the very least, delicious recipes that everyone can enjoy. This week's recipe is no exception. We actually went into the Lotro cookbook from the game this time around, and we went to the mushroom pie recipe, but then I decided to kind of add my own take to it and add some chicken. So this is a chicken mushroom pie. And it was delicious. Just ate some this afternoon and then proceeded to have a nap afterwards because it totally hit me like a food coma. It's pretty heavy. This is definitely more of a lunch or dinner, like depending on your activity and so on and so forth, but it's extremely filling. This is not a snack by any means, so hopefully you enjoy. In any case, if you haven't already done so, make sure to hit the bell icon, subscribe to the channel, do all those things so that you can get updates for future episodes as they go live. Check out the playlist. Also, check out the link below to go over to the Patreon page where you can pick up all of the ingredients for this recipe as well as the behind the scenes photos as the recipe was created in our kitchen. And of course, join us on Discord and all the other places. So let's dive into the recipe. Get this bad boy cooked for everybody. Hey everybody, today we're going to be preparing a chicken mushroom pie. This is all of the basic ingredients, which is basically chicken. I've got some garlic cloves here, onion, potatoes, carrots, mushrooms. I'm also going to be using milk and flour and some spices. We're going to get to that later. But without further ado, let's dive in and start preparing this recipe. Alright, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get all the potatoes and carrots in this container. And we're going to boil these down. Now the key is we're not going to be boiling these until they're completely soft. We just want to boil them for 10 or 15 minutes until they kind of crisp, but just starting to soften. Go ahead and get a chunk of butter in here. Get that going around. Next up, we're going to put our mushrooms, onion, garlic, all that's going to go in here. And we're going to saute this down and get it all nice and soft. This is pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and put this chicken in here and we're going to boil this for around 20 minutes or so. We don't need to cook it all the way because it's going to cook more in the oven, but we do want to pre-cook it a little bit. And of course, a little secret of mine is just a splash of vermouth, which is going to help with the spices as we get this cooked down. Alright, let's get some spices added in there. We're going to start with a little bit of oregano. Then we're going to come in with a little bit of parsley, and then a little bit of thyme. And finally a little bit of salt. Now you might want to add more salt later on, but for now we're going to start with this and then we'll taste it later and season as necessary. Get that all mixed up in here. Alright, now that we've got our veggies mostly softened down here, and the vermouth kind of simmered down, we're going to go ahead and add the milk. Now, how much milk you add is kind of up to you. Just put like a half a cup to a cup in here. I just pour. I'm not going to bother measuring it out. Get something about like that. Now we're going to heat this up. Now the tricky part to this is you don't actually want to bring the milk to a rapid boil because it'll curdle and do funny things. So what we want to do is just kind of pay attention to this and kind of stay here and keep an eye on that, stirring it every minute or so until we bring this to a simmer. Then we're going to start to add some flour in here and thicken this up into the mixture that's going to go into the pie. Alright, as you can see, the milk is simmering here and we got it on a low to medium heat. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to start adding flour. Now how much flour you use is kind of going to depend up to you. I like to start with a couple of tablespoons, and then of heaping tablespoons I should say, and incorporate that and then mix it in. And we'll start to see here in a few minutes how this is going to react. And again, how thick you want this is going to depend entirely up to your personal preferences. So you can always add more flour to the mixture if it's not thick enough for your tasting. So again, I start with a couple of tablespoons and then we're going to stir this down and wait and see here in a few minutes what it comes out to. Alright, now we're going to get the potatoes and carrots added in here. And this is when you'll be able to see, do I need to add more milk and flour to make a thicker mixture? Because we're also going to be adding the chicken to this as well, don't forget. Alright, now that that chicken is cooked down, we're going to go ahead and start to shred this up so that we can get it added to the mixture. Alright, once we're done, you're going to have a pile of chicken that looks something like this. And again, remember, this isn't completely cooked. We only cooked it for about 20 minutes or so in the boiler, but it's going to cook for another 30 minutes or so in the oven, so don't stress about that. Alright, it's time to get all the chicken added in here, just like so. Now we're going to get this all mixed up. Alright, next up we're going to lightly flour the table here, very lightly, and we're going to take our first ball and we're going to get this rolled down for the pie crust. This is the bottom layer. Alright, we're going to get this situated down in here somewhat, once I get it situated where I want it. Not going to be perfect, but more or less that's where we want it before we start filling it. Alright, next up, we need to get the top one also rolled out. Alright, it is now time to fill our pie here. And we're just going to come in here and we're just going to start lobbing it in. Don't be afraid to just fill this bad boy up. We made extra, so there's enough for a couple of pies in here, and the best thing about this is we can just take this mixture, we can stick it in the freezer, and we can save it for the next time we do another pie like this. So get it, we'll use about half the mixture it looks like, and the objective here is just to get this kind of filled in like so. Alright, next step is going to be, we're going to come in here and we're going to tap this off. Now, again, this is one of those things where it's a little, mine aren't perfectly sized, which is not that big of a deal, because all we're looking to do is we're going to come in here and we're just going to kind of crimp the edges. This isn't about perfection, this is just about creating a nice little topping like so. Get all this folded up and over and in. And last but not least, we need to go ahead and get some openings cut in here. Something like so. Alright, the oven is set at about 375. You can do 375 to 400. We're going to get this in here and we're going to start cooking it, and we're going to check it about 30 minutes, and if the pie crust is nice and toasty brown, then it'll be it. But depending on altitude, type of oven you're using, temperature you're cooking at, etc., 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 between 30 and 45 minutes is how long that's going to take before the crust is nice, crispy brown. You don't want to cook it too long because you'll end up burning the crust. So you just want that golden brown. All right, time to get this out of here. Got a nice golden brown, just starting to get a little too much on the top side, so got in here just in time to get that out. Now it's time to let it sit for about 10 minutes before we cut it open and devour. Alright, it's time to dive in here, get a serving out. Alright everybody, welcome to the finished results of the chicken mushroom pie that we're going to be devouring today. It's still a little hot, so I'm going to do my spiel before I sink my teeth into. If you liked this recipe and you want to know how to make it yourself, you can obviously follow along in the video, but don't forget to check out the full post over on Patreon. The links are below in the description of this video, and that'll take you over to the post where all of the behind the scenes details of this recipe are there. All the ingredients are listed with all of the behind the scenes photos from start to finish. It's all there, as well as past recipes that we've done with the Lotro Cooking in Real Life series. And of course here on YouTube there is the playlist with all of our past episodes. I want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in. Hopefully you're going to enjoy this as much as I do. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you get updates for future content that we do here on YouTube. let's taste test this now. It's hot. Very hot. So good. One of the best parts of this recipe for me, this pie crust. This pie crust recipe, we use it in everything. Blueberry pie, fruit pie, meat pie, vegetable pie, flaky, buttery. Anyway, hope everybody enjoys. We'll see you in the next episode, and over at Discord, Patreon, and everywhere else where we do fun stuff all the time. Thanks, everybody.